Hello! Welcome to my video. My name is Fahri Lamputra and you all may call me Fahri. So, in today's video, I will be sharing you my one recommended book that I have read so far in my life, and I will explain to you all the characteristic and all the interesting elements that I love from this book. And I can assure you, the time that you spend by reading this particular book, it'll be worth it. So, you might be wondering, what is the book actually, Fahri? So, the title of the book is called Rebecca, and it's written by Daphne de Maruier. So, without any further ado, let's jump into the explanation. In this specific part of the video, I will be talking about all the intrinsic elements that I love from this book, including the characters, the setting, and also the genre. So, Rebecca by Daphne de Maruier actually written or published in 1938. And the one thing that I love from this novel is that it portrays a very strong-minded and curious, kind of like a curious young woman. And it is very different than what has been being represented in the past. Because nowadays, all of the novels that has the woman as the main characters, they're all very diverse and very great and very true to the representation of how women actually is in the real world. However, in 1930s, it was the time where women being put down, or not even looked at, or not even worth to be looked at, or worth to be brought up into a story, because they think women is such a less human being. So, with this particular book, Daphne, who is actually a woman, she tried to portray a character of a woman that is very strong-minded, very adventurous, very kind of like strong-willed, and very kind of like eager to do the things that she wants to do. And it is very rare to find that characterization of a woman in the 1930s novel. Okay, so we're going to talk about the setting of this novel. So mostly throughout from the beginning until the end, it took place in a big English grand house named Maruier around 1930s. So this big house is actually a family house owned by Mr. Maxime de Winter. So there are several main characters that the story revolves around to. So the first one is the unnamed narrator woman. So the main character is actually unnamed. The Daphne do not kind of like give her a name at all. So that when we read this book, we look at the story based on our perspective. So when there is an unnamed character in a novel, the writer tried to make us think that this unnamed character is us. So we can give our own name to the main character so that we can relate more into the story, and we can dive into deeper kind of like layer into the story. So I believe that is the intention behind the unnamed narrator of a woman that is written by Daphne. And this unnamed narrator woman, the main character, is actually protagonist, and she's such a strong-willed woman, and she kind of very eager to get the things that she wants. And when something is a mystery, or something is full of secret, she is very strong-willed to kind of like uncover that secret and to find out about the truth. And that is why I love her so much. Even though like there are several decisions that she made in the past which is kind of like questionable, but her personality and her mindset is so admirable. And then the second character is the husband named Mr. Maxime de Winter. So Mr. Maxime is actually a very, very rich guy, and he has actually married before in the past. Her wife is named Rebecca. However, Rebecca died in an accident, drowning, and then a few years later, this Mr. Maxime was marrying the unnamed narrator of woman. And then the next character we have Mrs. Danvers. So Mrs. Danvers is actually the housekeeper of the Maruier house, and she actually very close with Mr. Maxime and also with Rebecca in the past. And actually, she still had that kind of like deep connection with the deceased wife, with Miss Rebecca. And there are several things that she did to the unnamed narrators that is influenced by her grief towards Rebecca. And then the last character is Rebecca, the deceased ex-wife. And one thing that I love about her character is that her character died right at the start of the story. right? However, her impact kind of like influence throughout every narrative that is happening inside of the story. So she's not very active in person when it comes to as a character. However, her impact slowly influencing every character decision. So like she is a passive character but has an active impact towards everything that happened inside of this book, and that is one thing that I find really interesting. The writing style of this character is very unique, which I have never found yet in other fantasy novel or any kind of novel at all, and that is why I really kind of like admire this novel and the writing style and everything. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about the genre. So when I first read about the book, I thought it was going to be like a romance or a drama, but this is actually a mystery. And you might be wondering what kind of mystery it is, because based on my explanation so far, it doesn't resemble any mystery. However, I'll explain to you in the next part, and that is the plot. So as you can see on the screen, Rebecca is about a young woman who marries the wealthy Maxime de Winter and moves to this grand estate, Manderley, and she feels constantly overshadowed by the ex-wife or the deceased wife, Rebecca, and the beautiful, seemingly perfect Rebecca. The eerie housekeeper, Mrs. Danvers, reinforces the narrator's insecurities with subtle reminders of Rebecca's present. Driven by the need for truth and Maxime's love, the narrator confronts a dark past, a shocking revelation about Rebecca's death, and devastating fire at Manderley changed everything. So basically, this story revolves around this unnamed narrator, a young woman who is very eager to get married. She wants to get married, and then she met with Mr. Maxime. And then she learned that Mr. Maxime is a very rich guy, and she has a big house and probably have a rich life. And she was like, why not? Just try it. And then she got married. However, on the first day that she stepped foot on Mr. Maxime's house, Mrs. Danvers acting very suspicious towards her, acting very cold-hearted, and as if like Mrs. Danvers doesn't like her present at all. And it is true, because Mrs. Danvers still have that connection with Rebecca, the deceased ex-wife, and she hates it when somebody replaced Rebecca's place in the house, and that is one of the things that motivate her to act in a certain way towards this unnamed narrator. And then one day she kind of like found out about the truth about Rebecca, and maybe Rebecca did not die because of an accident at all. Rebecca did not drown accidentally. However, Rebecca might be murdered, might be killed by who? By the husband, by Mr. Maxime. And the unnamed narrator is trying to find out about the truth, discover about the things that is being hidden from her. And then until at the end of the story, there's like this big fire that kind of like take over the big house, and at the end everything was burned down. Everything that inside of that house was being burned down. And actually, I've read somewhere that ending about the fire and everything is a metaphor for kind of like releasing Rebecca's past. So that house is actually full of Rebecca's influence around it, and when it's being burned down, everything's about Rebecca is being burned down as well, and being released and not being kept under Mr. Maxime's hand or Mr. Denver's emotional feeling. So it's a really great novel that full of metaphor and that allows you to interpret things based on your own opinion and everything, and I love it so much, and I would recommend it for all of you audience to read this book, because the time that you will spend here, like I said in the beginning, it'll be worth it. So that is the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.